Hello everybody. So today we're talking about Prestashop and how to launch your app, or as it's called on Prestashop, your module for Prestashop. You might be in the process of evaluating, you might be in the process of building your app, you might already have an app or a module for Prestashop, so you might want to kind of get an idea of what is the potential here? How do I market it more? So today we're going to talk through the 5 different things that are relevant when evaluating, planning, or even growing your Prestashop app. So the first thing we're going to go through is basically the market potential, number 1. Then we're going to talk about the marketing channels that you can leverage to grow your Prestashop app. Then we're going to talk about the product features that are possible when building an app or an integration or a module for Prestashop. Then we're going to talk about the onboarding experience, how you can design that. And finally, we're going to talk about how difficult it is, or the challenges around actually technically building the Prestashop app, module, integration, whatever you want to call it. So let's jump into it. First of all, we're going to talk about the market potential. So Prestashop is based in France. It's one of the largest open source systems in the world. It is, however, focused largely on markets that are a little bit different. So Prestashop has a lot of installs all over the world. They have over 300,000 merchants, they say on their website here. Predominantly focused on France, some of the South American markets, Mexico, Poland is a strong market, a bunch of different markets. They have installs everywhere, also strongly in the US and Western European countries, in Asia, but they have their core markets that they're focused on. So as you can see, with that amount of installs, there's a lot of potential here. A lot of merchants are selling on Prestashop. They have a huge community. Since it's open source, they have a lot of contributors, as you can see here. They also have a fair amount of agencies which you can leverage once you roll out and once we get into the marketing, basically, channels. So in that regard, there's quite a lot of potential here. There is also a lot of focus on Prestashop, so you'll find a lot of other apps and integrations there, so there is a fair amount of competition as well. Nonetheless, Prestashop is definitely one of the systems that you want to consider, of course, based on your merchant demography, right? So Prestashop is typically used for medium to small merchants. Enterprise merchants typically go for other systems like Demandware, which is now Salesforce, or Hybris, which is SAP now, or classically also Magento, which is now Adobe. So on Prestashop, you're getting the medium-sized and smaller merchants, very similar to on Shopify, to be honest. So that's basically that's what you want to go for if you have that kind of demography in your merchant base, basically. So what we're going to talk about next are the marketing channels. And of course, beside all the other things you can do and should do, and we're talking more about that in all the videos on our marketing channels and how to market your e-commerce apps. But definitely with Prestashop, you also want to consider, as with Shopify, Magento, and so on, you want to consider their add-ons store or module store, basically, which you can find on addons.prestashop.com. You can see it here. There's over 3,000 add-ons on here. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. So this is definitely something you want to consider when you develop a module and an app, that you leverage the actual add-on store. Some of the interesting things you can do beside that, of course, you want to rank on Google. You want to use all of the other channels, like the agencies. You want to get out there. There's a lot of publishers that actually publish interesting Prestashop add-ons and modules and stuff like that. What you can do with Prestashop is there's a bunch of promotion opportunities. For example, you can basically go into the core of the system. So when somebody downloads a Prestashop store and sets it up, as you can see here, some of the add-ons are pre-included in that. So you're going to be pre-included in the setup of the store when it is installed, which is a pretty nice feature, obviously, and a pretty strong marketing channel if you partner up with Prestashop to make that possible, basically. So that is definitely an opportunity you want to look into, whether that's in your scope or not, but that's something that is possible. And as it is a open source system, there's a lot of other opportunities. It has a strong community, so you can do a lot around the community, around the forums, around the agencies and the developers around it, and all the publishers around that system, basically. So that is basically point number 2. We want to talk about the marketing channels, and again, go watch some of our other videos where we talk about how to market your e-commerce app and apps in general, whether it is Prestashop, Shopify, or any of the other hundreds of systems that you can basically launch to through Itemaze. We help you whether you build it on your own or you build it through Itemaze to figure out how to market your apps in the best possible way. Now, going into point number 3, product features. The good thing about Prestashop is that since it's an open source system, you have access to most of all the data. Actually, you have access to all the data. You can either access it through the API, if you look at the data access, or you can access it directly by building an add-on or a module and basically pulling out the information you need directly in your module. That makes it very flexible in terms of the data you can access and the data you can write back into the system. If it's not there already, there's no field for it, you can add it on as a specific system if you really need to, right? If you talk about front-end features, so for example, going in, adding things on the product page, adding things in the cart page, maybe even in the checkout, all of these things are possible, like with any other system, especially open source system, but also as we explored on the Shopify video, there are limitations based on the templates, or that not limitations, but they're basically compatibility issues, or not compatibility issues, but what do you want to say, compatibility thoughts you need to have around what you basically want to be compatible with and not. So you can basically add anything you like here in the checkout, whether it's on here on the personal information, on the addresses, in the shipping methods, in the payments. You can make shipping methods or payment depending on shipping method, all these kind of different things. So there's a lot of things you can do around that, essentially. And of course, if you talk about operational services, again, like shipping or anything else, you can also go back in, and since it's an open source system, you can add on basically information or feature sets inside of the actual admin page on Prestashop as well, which makes it very configurable, and you have availability for a lot of features, both in the front end, in the admin space, and in terms of the data you can extract and write back into the system. And let me just see if it's going to load here. It's a little bit slow. You can see there's a lot of stuff that you can basically do and add in. There's a lot of stuff that's already available in here, so you have the best of both worlds basically in that regard. Now jumping into the next point around onboarding experience. What you need to do when you design the onboarding experience for Prestashop is you want to make sure that you take into account that we're talking about an open source system, so you need to account for that a merchant needs to upload a module, right? So this is basically what you do in here. So you need to upload a module here. You can automate things through basically the add-on store, the module store, but you want to make sure you take that into account when you design your overall onboarding strategy, right? So this is different to when you do a marketplace like eBay, where there's an OAuth, when you do Shopify, where there's potential for an OAuth. Not that it's more difficult or anything like that, but it's a different kind of flow that you need to account for when you basically design the onboarding flow for the merchant and for the Prestashop merchant, essentially. Of course, if you go in and do a core integration partnership with Prestashop, then you will already be pre-installed, and you can basically do it like that. Nonetheless, not all merchants are going to come from this, so you need to account for both cases or all cases in your store, essentially, right? So that's basically it around the onboarding experience. If we now look at the actual development, so Prestashop also is one of the biggest. They have a pretty good documentation, so you can basically use that quite a lot. We have available different test stores, test services, kind of development, direct support and chat if you work with us. But otherwise, you can find a pretty good documentation, whether you want to develop a module or whether you want to develop basically an API integration to pull data and write data from your own application into Prestashop, depending on what you're building. And that's basically the last point. So in that regard, Prestashop also pretty good. You need to take account for all the pitfalls and stuff like that, all the specialities of Prestashop, of course, the limitations, which is why a lot of companies, when they develop this, they like to consult with us, to work with Itembase, given that we actually provide the possibility to develop one app and then launch it across all the different commerce systems. So when you develop an app for Prestashop, we basically will take it and launch it across all the different systems. We can even develop the app fully for you, and that way you have an integration platform in between that enables you to basically maintain one integration, or even let us as our certified partners maintain it, and then launch your app across, Prestashop, Magento, eBay, Amazon, Shopify, you name it, hundreds of different systems. And of course, take advantage of the full cycle, basically knowledge of our team, where we're going to help you define the target group, leverage all the different marketing channels, design the best onboarding experience that can be done based on best practice from us launching and basically onboarding hundreds of thousands of merchants across all of our customers to all of their different apps. So in that regard, I wish you, of course, all the best with assessing and basically preparing, planning, and launching your Prestashop app, whether you do it on your own and you just want to use some of our resources, or you go ahead and schedule a call with one of our experts to see how this could work for you as a company.